I'm Alison, chairman of this 1993 International Space Development Conference, and I welcome you all here to Huntsville, Alabama. Looks like we have a lot of people here. A lot of you came here through some pretty tough measures, and I just want to say that we're all happy to see you here. A couple of our interesting arrivals aren't even in the room this morning. We had, if you see them, I don't know what the credits we gave them, but we had Kirby Icon coming from Australia. I guess he's our father's travel. And there's a guy named Del Lamond. We thought you'd get him the most creative travel. Whoever has it came with Will well an airplane to get here. So if anybody sees Del Lamond, you can tell him that's what I put out about him. He really went through some strange things to get a trip here. Looking back, some interesting things were happening about 50 years ago this time. Actually, 50 years ago this weekend, American forces retook Attu Island in Alaska from the Japanese. It was the first retake of American territory during World War II. And that was often called the 1,000-mile war. It was a war fought against the elements. It was a real... There's Dale. Okay, don't have to pass the word. He's standing in front. I'll just look right over him. It was a war fought against some really tough odds, but the thing was is we stuck our neck out and took back what was ours. But it was really an example of American resolve. And all through that war and several decades ensued, there are many, many examples of resolve, which we determined we were going to do something and we just set up to do it. Today, maybe we need some more lessons in resolve. Somehow we seem to have lost some of that basis. Other things that were happening 50 years ago was that there was something called the 8-4, which we Americans termed the V2, which is a rocket that was really beginning to open the space age. You'll find some of the people here at this conference who were the key instrumental people in designing and developing that system. Conrad Dannenberg will be here off and on through the regular conference. And we have a big panel at the Space and Rocket Center Saturday night, and I understand it's already sold out. For those like a few of you who pre-registered, you're going to get a heck of a program there and get to meet a whole passel of those people. The interesting thing, I like to go back to this thing in World War II when we went 50 years ago and cut back Attu Island. If you were to look at our country at that time, we were really a backwards nation. I mean, the United States had a good culture. We had good values, good principles. But technologically and economically, we weren't anything to really brag about. We were still, a world power. But if you look at what we had in those days, there was dirt roads everywhere. Out in the country, nobody had city water. I mean, heck, people were still mostly drawing waters out of well. There weren't even power available in a lot of areas. A lot of telephones weren't available. The country was primitive. Yet, we found it within ourselves to fight wars on two sides of the world all at once and win them. And we emerged as the world power. And we went from there to fight a Cold War. This shows a lot of resolve and a lot of capability. Today we seem to think we just can't do anything. Here we have a lot of technology, a lot of new things, and so where's this idea come from that we just can't do anything? It's really baseless because we can do a lot, and we need to know that, we need to understand it, we need to admit it to ourselves and pass that word. We need to communicate it. What we need to pick up is the challenge of space. We need to pick this up as our next challenge to do something there. Really and truly what we have here in our program is a working conference. You may have looked at some of our sessions. We have some sessions like how we used to make things work and development on the fast track. The reason we come up with some program like that is, I'm as a young engineer myself, I'm hearing the old guys talk all the time about, gee, we used to just go down and shop and we'd make this and we'd make that. And they're always telling us about all these great and wonderful things that they used to do. But today, most of us young engineers are still pushing paper and dreaming of doing some of those things. And so we find ourselves saying, gee, what happened? Those were the good old days. I wish I could do some of those things. There's just too much of that being said. So we decided, well, we are a problem here today. We as the National Space Society represent an organization who wants to reach out and develop space to the point of developing human settlements. I mean, we're really ambitious. The goals are grand, but we seem to do well just to simply launch rockets these days. So it became a little apparent we had to return to some of our basic fundamentals. We've got to revisit some of these things before we can hope to accomplish our aspirations. That's why we set up stations like Development on Fast Track and how we used to make them work. It's time to look at these things again. It's time to try to relearn some of those lessons. And we've tried to bring in some bright people, young and old, who are doing them on the fast track. For instance, we have some people with small-scale initiatives. These are guys who are developing experiments, making things fly. They're doing things on their own. One of these guys is down in the back, Phil Carswell. He's got some experiments that are about to go up on the show, and he's trying to hide himself. We also decided that, we didn't want just another conference in which everybody came and essentially heard some good talks and thought, well, that's a lot of good ideas, and clapped the speakers and patted each other back and walked away home, and nothing came out of it. 3 years ago, when I pitched to do this thing in Anaheim, California, I had in mind that if I was going to spend all this time and effort to put a conference together, something better darn well come out of it. So we decided to go beyond having some good topics and sessions and look at some of these fundamental problems that we're facing today in developing space. We set up a foundry. It's a workshop, which is intended to be a project incubator. Some of you may have heard of it. How many of you heard of the foundry? Oh, looks like about half of you. It's a project incubator workshop in which people are presenting some ideas. There's a big brainstorming session, and folks are expected to team up and develop some project plans and run through an integration panel, which will give them some advice for developing their plans, and maybe even plug them in to some of the right people that might make it work for them. We want something concrete to come out of here. I hope that Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, we can have some good ideas about some of these things that are coming forward out of this conference and let you know about them. We also plan to have some activism activities in this conference. We're at a political crossroads as much as a technological and spiritual crossroads in terms of making things happen today. If we're really going to have our dreams accomplished, we've got to take some initiatives and move with it right now. Beyond that, I just want to say that I really want to welcome you here to Huntsville. Some of you may be surprised that this was such a small town when you flew in here, and that's really the case. This is really the biggest hotel here in Huntsville where we're at now. There's maybe one or two fancier, but it really took everything we could to shoehorn an ISDC into Huntsville. We had, before the door registration started yesterday, about 566 people pre-registered. And, we expect about 50% more than that by the time the conference is over. So it takes a lot of room to do all the kind of activities and accommodate the people that we're expecting. We set up a program, essentially, actually a system engineering program, which is designed to cover a broad spectrum of topics, but it's intended to be the essential topics that are most needed to be covered for moving us forward in space development toward the direction eventually of space settlement even. Again, that's a very broad goal, and nobody here really believes that we're going to go off and build space colonies tomorrow morning. We've got a lot of stepping stones to be accomplished between here and there. But that's also part of the topics of what we're going to be looking at. One of the unique things about an ISDC, though, is that with this National Space Society, this is the one time a year where the best and brightest minds come together for the sole purpose of moving us forward in space, even to that point of developing space settlements. A lot of bright minds can get up for a lot of other reasons all year long from other events, but this is the one event where that happens. It brings together the most of those bright minds. So what I want to do is challenge each of you to try to meet with some of these other bright minds, to network, to try to figure out ways to make things happen. Sometimes the most work in the conference occurs actually in the chit-chat areas, the bars and the lounges and places like that where people make their contacts. Well, we try to pull together a wide assortment of people to come to this, so there's plenty of opportunities to make contacts. And then again, there's the foundry, the political activities, and hopefully some good activities and sessions which should cover relevant topics that might spur your thoughts and your own action. But primarily, what I want to challenge each of you to is to make a commitment to do something new, something different, to make things happen. Something new, something different, to lead us to that day that we will move as a civilization into space. And beyond that, I just want to challenge, I just want to point out, while you are here, have some fun too. Get a chance, get downtown. We've got a good historic district there. It's called Twickenham. You can see some of the homes of the Old South era. There are many other attractions in there. Of course, you all know the Space and Rocket Center. If you really get time, there's Lynchburg, Tennessee is only about an hour up the road. The guys up at Jack Daniel's Distillery would be real happy to take you to a tour up there, and it's a lot of fun. The only thing I have to caution you about is that it's a dry county, so you can't buy any liquor there. But you can go outside the county line and get all you want. But it's kind of funny. Sitting on the hills around Lynchburg is 4 to 5, maybe even $6 billion worth of whiskey sitting on the hills in big vats. You know, we're talking space dollars times just in whiskey. That's something worth keeping in mind as you see the place. We do have several, all the tours that we're actually running from the ISDC are really space-oriented tours, and I understand one whole set of them filled up, and that's the VIP tours to Marshall. Again, for those lucky few that got in that, congratulations. Hope you have a good time. You'll get to see the space station lock up and actually walk through it, and you'll get to see some of the equipment areas where they're testing and developing some of the technologies for the life support system, and where they're actually supposed to build the modules. And one of these rooms is the place where they actually built the first stage of the first Saturn V moon rockets. I mean, you may be aware that these were contracted out and different companies were involved in it, but actually the first flight rockets for the Saturn V were built here in Huntsville, Alabama. It was designed here also. Also, we have another event when our conference ends. It's kind of an adjunct. We're co-sponsoring the National Space Club. Now, that sounds like National Space Society. In Huntsville, they're a big organization, causes all kinds of confusion. Somebody says, well, you're on National Space Club, and we're on the National Space Society. And I'm sure they hear it all the time. Are you National Space Society? The names are real close, and for some people it might cause some confusion. But this joint event is actually separate from the conference, but it starts when the ISDC is over. It's a golf outing. It's a space enthusiast golf outing. There will be some forums available and some of the tables out here later during the day where you can sign up for it. It's just a chance if you're going to be here over the rest of Monday to have a little fun and meet a few people, play some golf. Actually, it's a big party. Several local companies chipped in. They've got a big banquet and all kind of stuff. The fees are only $50. The companies chipped in a lot more than that per person. So whoever goes to it will definitely have a good time. And I would like to urge you to consider doing that. There are still openings in that. Also, I have the other speaker back here, Lori Garver, is Executive Director of the National Space Society, and she's hiding in the back, but we stuck her on the program. I heard she was up developing some things to say last night. I didn't do that. I set up a party in the hospitality suite, and I woke up about 40 minutes ago. So, oh my God, I'm supposed to be talking for 10 minutes, so I ran down there. I don't know what her story is, but she's back here in the back. Lori, would you like to come here and say a few words to kick off the spirit of the National Space Society in this 1993 ISDC?
You bet. Thank you, Greg. Good morning, y'all. Okay, I'm not very good at that because I'm from Michigan. But we did experience some of your southern hospitality already. I think a few of us were up experiencing it last night, which is why the 8 o'clock session is very full. There's a wonderful 4.5 days ahead of us. Today's highlights include talks on power beaming technology, space medicine, and Skylab, and as Greg mentioned, tours of the Marshall Space Flight Center. There'll be a luncheon address on pork loin. I'm sorry, I guess that's not the topic. that's what we'll be eating. Just being from Washington, I figured when there's a talk on the space program, it involves pork. Okay, I was at hospitality too. Other highlights of the conference include talks on everybody's favorite launch vehicle, the DCX Delta Clipper, lunar and planetary development, not much of that going on, and space station concepts, a lot of that going on. What do you say we get a little more of the former and a little less of the latter?
I ain't gonna be much of the latter, don't know what's talking.
Also, feel free to drop by the workshops. A couple of my favorite activities that go on, you won't want to miss, are the chapters assembly and the board meeting. I always have a good time at those. Attending celebrities at the conference include our favorite board member astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, Charlie Walker, and Byron Lichtenberg. Huntsville's own J.R. Thompson, and friends of ours from our sister organizations, like the president of the Challenger Center, Doug King, and the executive director of the U.S. Space Foundation, Jack Flannery. The awards banquet will feature a very special new NSS Board of Governors member who, as of this week, has appeared in every Star Trek series, in each of the Star Trek series, the original, TNG, and DS9. That's just so you have your lingo for when she gets here. I can't believe I have to tell you that. It's a critical time to meet at this year's ISDC. This critical juncture of the space program brings with it potentially grave consequences, as well as potentially great opportunity. The reform movement in our space program is attempting to change the status quo, and that's something we should not be afraid of. We must not let this opportunity for positive change in the space program pass. If we lose it now, it could be years before anyone is willing to try again. I think that there are people who want to take down the space program on Capitol Hill, and as is typical, the ISDC comes at a time just before the votes on the Hill, and you'll be hearing a lot this week about things we can do to make sure that our voices are heard. As members of the general public and as National Space Society members, let us hear the call for change and embrace it. After all, we're certainly proud of our 3 astronaut board members who got there by working through the bureaucracy and the status quo, but the rest of us want to go too, and we may not be as patient as they are. Let's make this ISDC instrumental in our quest for the stars. I want to thank Greg and his committee for their wonderful planning. It's now up to us to take up the charge and make it meaningful. Thank you, y'all, and have a great weekend.
Well, all I want to say here is just roll up your sleeves, get out there, and let's get to work. Thanks, everybody, for coming.